Here we are, John, once again. How you doing, bud?
Hey, what's up, Matt? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, doing great. Here it is once again, episode 38 of Two Noobs Talking.
Man, it's a lot.
38 episodes. That's crazy, isn't it? I
That's
mean, my
like
gosh.
Kurt Schilling, World Series, man.
Yeah, Kurt Schilling. Well, there you go. We were kind of just thinking of like names for players and stuff
That's
like that.
about it. 30. I mean, I'm sure there's a billion other ones, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah,
We did
exactly.
go we did go Pavel Dimitra, but I mean that's only me, you, Steve, Eddie, and maybe,
A few
two other
others that
people.
kind of
Yeah,
know. Maybe
totally
the
get
St.
that.
Louis area. Exactly. Welcome
Those who
again.
got that, welcome to the crew.
There you go. Exactly. Welcome once again to another episode of Two Noobs Talking, of course, with my buddy John Tracy, who is now officially back again
In the
in his home
studio.
base in Texas, in studio, not racking up those frequent driver miles as before. I'm, of course, Matt Craig, still in the bunker here in KOP in King of Prussia, just outside Philly. Happy you're with us. We got another great show, John, don't we?
Yes,
My
sir, we
gosh.
do.
This is amazing because we alluded to this last episode, episode 37, of course, where we have this New York State Bar Association report. So let's just dive right into that report, shall we?
Please, this is bear with us, audio listeners. We're going to try our best. The best to see this is going to be on YouTube, just so everybody knows, because there's a
There
lot.
is so much, of course. Like this is 242-page report detailing the entire pandemic in New York State, really from start to finish. It is an excellently written report from top to bottom. And John and I, we have three slides, and we 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 primarily picked like some of the most damning evidence. I think, John, would that
Oh
be
yeah,
fair to say?
things that people need to know that have been discovered or already knew. I mean,
Yeah,
most Cuomo haters, you kind of know that his greatest hits.
yeah,
You know his first album, his greatest hits album. Now it's
yeah.
just
That's the sexual harassment and sexual.
exactly. We all know that, but this dives a little bit in the deeper of his panic, his inability for leadership. De Blasio doesn't look very well in this.
No,
The health association does not look very good in this.
the
There's a
department.
lot of people that did not handle.
The
Um,
Department of Health was a disaster in New York State. Yeah, so let's just dive right into really the first bullet point here. The task force was essentially this is pulled right from the report. The task force was essentially, quote, asked to examine what has happened during the pandemic to receive receiving long-term care, whether the adverse effects suffered by those receiving long-term care in New York systems could have been avoided. So that is a really good opening statement, I think,
yes.
on that. And then basically talking about the testing. I think this was really crucial, really where the foundation really started to crumble, and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
This is a huge sentence. Quote, testing was crucial to the plans to keep COVID in check. The plan at its core was simple. Individuals showing symptoms of COVID would be tested. Those testing positive would be isolated until they were no longer symptomatic, which was regarded as being no longer contagious. Again, that makes sense. The intent was to stay ahead of the disease, to manage it, but the plan collapsed within a week.
And can I throw a little bit of shade over Fauci's way?
Go
Because
for it.
that's when Fauci, from we're dating in around that. That's when Fauci started doing the asymptomatic,
Yep.
and he was
False
confusing the
positives,
country.
false.
Yeah, he was confusing the country at that same time. So although yes, it's all New York. I don't want to. I don't want to put out information not saying that it wasn't either the administration,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean,
Yep.
that had something to do with it also.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think that's a good point, John. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the constant, and we've talked about this, of course, ad nauseum with Fauci. It's like the constant media appearances really confused things as well. That didn't help, especially when the testing was starting to collapse within a week of it,
Yeah.
week's time. Really, really poor. Warnings. Quote, this is again right from the association report. Further signs appeared that New York State and the nation were not well prepared for COVID. That's an understatement.
Yes.
On February 6, 2020, in a letter to healthcare executives, New York State Health Commissioner Howard Zucker warned of expected shortages of personal protective equipment, or the PPEs. Think N95 masks, things along those lines.
Gloves.
Gloves, gowns, whatever the case may be. That warning was a strong indication that the state's public health authorities were expecting difficulties in meeting the challenge of COVID. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got this. And New York
Yeah,
Health
exactly.
Commissioner's kind of going like, I'm not so sure we really do. This is not going to be good. The
That sounds
found.
like a big uh-oh right there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it is a big spaghetti-o
Like,
moment
oh,
right here.
but this was also around the time, I remember this email, if I can kind of put the timeline together for everybody. This is kind of the same time that Cuomo was on TV entirely too much, blaming Trump for not having ventilators.
Yeah, and or not having enough beds, or whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
And,
Like, it was the political game that was being played during the same thing. Like I always say, I've always focused on the corruption behind.
Yep.
So if I could set timelines, I would like to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this is definitely starting to go on. Speaking of, let's go on continuing. Confirmed cases. So the first confirmed case in New York, again, pulling right from the report, was announced on March 1st, 2020. On March 2nd, Governor Cuomo very confidently stated. So you have to imagine, right, in the early part of the report, there were warning signs. There were issues of PPEs not getting fully, with the New York State Health Commissioner kind of saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not so sure we were really ready to meet. Cuomo, in his typically braggadocious fashion, very confidently stated that New York was ready to meet the pandemic, John. New York had faced epidemics successfully before, would do so again. This isn't our first rodeo. We're fully coordinated, fully mobilized, fully prepared to deal with the situations. Of course, all of that was 100% BS.
Yeah. And the fact that, but all the people do this with we faced epidemics, so we're going to meet the pandemic. Two different things.
No, 100%.
Like two different things. It's the rates are different. Epidemics aren't as serious. That's why pandemics are here and epidemics are here.
Yeah, exactly. Epidemic is you're still able to control it, but the pandemic is where you got widespread disease, and that's where the issue really came into play.
Yeah, exactly.
And for him to make this kind of a statement just goes to show just what of a loser this guy was.
Yeah, you're not
especially when you have his state health commissioner saying I'm not so sure we're going to be able to meet the needs for PPEs.
A little less than a month before he comes out and says this, he's already had a note from Zucker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yo, there could be a short, it's something you need to look into.
Yeah.
And we do know from evidence he didn't do anything about that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's continue on. Obviously, the emergency powers were then granted. And I love the association's report here. Quote, despite that confident statement, which I absolutely loved, on that same March 2nd, Governor Andrew Cuomo asked for and was granted emergency powers by the legislature to meet the expected epidemic. Of course, at that point, it was a pandemic.
Yes.
See,
that was the biggest mistake they made.
Yeah.
The legislator made a huge mistake by giving him that power.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it all falls apart right there.
That's where it starts. The crumblings definitely start to happen in the foundations for sure. Closings. Now, this was a very controversial, of course, some states remained open. Some states decided to close everything down very quickly. Mm-hmm. Apparently, in New York City, there was a clash between the mayor and the governor. According to the association's report, quote, closings became a flashpoint between Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio, with the mayor moving to shut down New York City and its schools, only to be delayed by the governor.
If I can source those articles, I think I can, because they're in a folder somewhere. Trust me. In preparation of this podcast, we were not live at this point. We would have been covering that 100%. But I do have some post articles saved somewhere on the drives. Of that, they were not. This was not good. They were
infighting
against bars and restaurants and gyms,
mm-hmm.
and Cuomo was on their side, but
mm-hmm.
then to ultimately go against them in the end, which was kind of weird.
I also remember too, John, that de Blasio, about a month prior to all of this, was like, you know what? You don't even have to worry about it. Don't even worry about wearing a mask. Don't even worry about doing this. Don't even worry about your favorite restaurants closing and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, they were clashing clearly. The mayor of the biggest city of our country, really, in terms of population, density, and all that kind of stuff, and they're at odds. This is not good. This is obviously terrible. And the fact that this was delayed by the governor, it's starting. You can start to see a little bit of a panic starting to set in a little bit. It's not looking good at this point. And so then we move on a few weeks later, there's the emergency bed use situation. An especially important event in terms of the state's healthcare capacity occurred on March 23rd. So about 3 weeks later. On that date, Governor Cuomo issued an executive order. I love how he just issues these executive orders, John, not even looking to his legislature. Issues an executive order requiring that all hospitals cancel elective surgeries to free up hospital beds. Urged that hospitals go beyond the order and increase their capacity by 100%. So those people that had cancer, those people that had, knee surgeries, elbow surgeries, shoulder surgeries, they needed to put this off, but the pain was starting to get more and more involved. Guess what? You're not getting those elective surgeries done, pal.
No, they got rid of them really quick.
So those that had chronic pain, guess what? You're going to have to take the bullet, according to the governor. That's not exactly looking out for your, for your constituencies.
They're going to get locked down. That's not going to be good for at all.
Yeah, exactly. So we move on. This is our final slide. Nursing home statement. So couple days later, on March 25th, the Department of Health issued the now infamous advisory to nursing homes. The advisory was explicitly issued out of concern for hospital capacity. It said so in its second sentence, quote, "There is an urgent need to expand hospital capacity in New York State to be able to meet the demand for patients with COVID requiring acute care," end quote. And then, of course, the backlash happens. The executive order closing nursing homes to visitors was obviously intended to check the spread of the virus. Whatever that order's efficacy in controlling the introduction of the virus, the order had certain unavoidable negative consequences. For the State Bar Association to admit to that, John, is huge. Huge. They're not covering this up, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. And they could easily have covered this up, which is, thank God they didn't.
Yeah.
This is a hard dose of reality that people need to look at.
Yeah. Big time. And then finally, our final note here was the Attorney General report. On January 28th, 2021, the Office of the Attorney General, or OAG, released a report entitled Nursing Home Response to the COVID-19 Pandemic. The Attorney General's report concluded that the Department of Health, New York State Department of Health, had been undercounting nursing home deaths and estimated that the full toll, now get this, was 50% higher than what the department had reported.
Yes, which turns to be 15,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they had already lost 7,500.
Yep.
Multiply that by 15,000.
Yeah, it was 15,000 was the total number that came out just recently about
now,
that.
Just bear in mind, I want to, for all of our audience, that's only just 3 slides that John and I did. If you look at this entire report, you will be shocked.
And be tired because
it's
a long read. It's a long read. But
exactly.
It's in the show notes as always. The article, you can find it a million ways. We actually have it linked there, and we have the article in which we found it in.
Yep.
And a bunch of other articles.
We should also mention this too. Yeah, we should also mention this too, Johnny, actually. Within the report, the Bar Association links all individual articles within every point that they make. They have footnotes listed in there.
Oh, absolutely.
So
that Attorney General report is in that too, which we'll pull out and kind of make it prevalent if people want to see that.
I think that would probably be a real good talking point in a future episode, John, if we wanted to take a look at the OAG report. But let's just take
I want to look at all the reports.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just take a step back from all of this. Of course, we spent this week really poring over the report, John. What were your thoughts on it? Talk to me about your thoughts.
Nothing was shocking in that report at all. It's stuff we already knew, but it's the first time in our lifetime
Yeah.
that something at this magnitude wasn't covered up.
Yeah.
That's what kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
This is something you wouldn't get a 242 page report
Mm-mm.
from a governor making a mistake.
Yeah.
Just look at past problems. Look at the tornadoes in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the hurricanes in Louisiana and Florida, and where we know governors and presidents
Mm-hmm.
and people made mistakes. They were 11 pages, maybe 108 pages, and mostly glossed over. This one really got into the heart of who was the problem,
Oh yeah.
and it was a
And the
bunch of
problem was the governor, clearly, because you start to look at the timeline, and I love the fact that the report really starts from the beginning.
Mhm.
It names the fact that the virus originated in Wuhan, China. So I don't want to hear this conspiracy theory. Oh, did it really originate in China? Is the virus racist? That's a bunch of horse shit. So let's just
By
can
the
we
way,
turn the page on that, please? Thank you.
for funsies, if you haven't seen Jon Stewart's great thing on Colbert the other day about God Lab, just I don't care about coronavirus. He is funny. He was funnier than he's ever been.
Nice.
Like that, it was.
Yeah.
I'm a big Jon Stewart fan. I don't like his politics,
Yeah.
but I'm a fan of his. He's a good comedian,
Yeah.
and he took his politics and put his comedic run to it, and it had me crying watching.
That's
it.
awesome.
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's awesome. But yeah, it's like they just go through the entire timeline, and basically they also provide recommendations on what to do in terms of really when something like this happens again, what is the best case, their recommendations on what to do. That's also really good read through as well. We don't have that here in our slides, but there are some really really good points in there. Everything from I mean something I can't even remember off the top of my head, but they were excellent recommendations. So we would encourage our listeners and things like that. Look at this report. It is excellent. It's real good. And you can see the panic. You can definitely see the panic developing in the governor as this virus starts to happen, and he's asking for things, and he apparently gets stonewalled by the president, quote unquote. But it's like, well, that didn't really happen. And clearly the testing was, I think, John,
the biggest.
the biggest hurdle, the biggest block that really kind of you pull that away, and the house, all of it came crumbling down because they were like, "Oh, yep, we're ready." And it's like the testing was a joke. It was a joke in the early days of the pandemic.
I mean, 50% of the nursing community came out and said that globally.
Yeah.
Said that there weren't a lot of people a fan of the testing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Originally in the uppers of the countries.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it was totally uncomfortable. I mean, they're basically with a swab going right up your nostril, your navel cavity, and it's like, whoa, okay, this isn't really.
Why do you need to be close to my brain?
Yeah, exactly. You want to just take anything out of there? I'm not sure if anything's in there, but no. I mean, it's like the testing really was the foundational piece that really kind of just let everything kind of crumble. And then you have the infighting between the governor and the mayor. That to me was like, wow, I didn't even remember that.
Do you know my biggest problem with that whole thing was, and I'm sure this was everywhere. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in COVID testing at all. I just know they popped up everywhere. Anywhere I was in the United States during that time.
Yep.
I mean, they were literally in like trailers, like just dropped off trailers, and there was one person in protective gear, and it was like COVID testing, 15 minutes or less or whatever, like, whatever. Sounds like a tagline. I mean, it's like, it's like 5-minute, oil changes. Like it reminded me of that. Like literally, if I can make an analogy of what it felt like looking at it, it's literally when you see like Jiffy Lube, like 5 minutes, you're like, that's going to take you 11.
Yeah,
exactly. Like 15 minutes. I'm like, dude, if I got tested, it'd probably be an hour and a half because you don't know what you're doing.
No.
But they were, and to not to make fun of them because they were volunteered, nurses doing this, and that but all support for the healthcare workers.
Oh, 100%.
You guys did everything you humanly possibly could
have
done when every administration was against you.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how I feel about the whole thing.
I could not agree with you
You had
more,
every
John.
governor, well, not every governor, but most governors, most mayors, the president, the idiot, who was in charge of the
The
coronavirus.
quack, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's against you, not trying to help.
No. And keeps moving the goalposts and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah. I mean, kudos. And I know of like at least 3 people within my own circle, John, that were like on the front lines every single day with that. And it's
And it's God bless you, because you were there and you know what it's about. But
yeah,
the corruption, like, again, it's not about COVID. It's about the corruption behind COVID.
behind it.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that the healthcare workers could have did a better job if they
Yeah.
were given a leg to stand on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. So yeah, we encourage you take a look at that report. Absolutely. But let's turn the page,
Oh,
John,
yeah.
shall we? Because I think we have a lunatic in Chicago that
yeah,
I think really
talk
needs
about
to
mayors.
be.
Talk about mayors, man. I love De Blasio, but I don't like this lady, like, even more.
She is an absolute lunatic. So this is actually from MSN, but the original article came from the Chicago Tribune.
And we're not paying for the Chicago Tribune because they're not that good.
Exactly. Yeah. This was a very interesting article because we called her out a couple weeks ago for her blatant racism. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, once again, she's subbing in for Phil Murphy, John. Line change, she's coming in. Lori Lightfoot says email ripping aide over lack of office time that drew comparisons to a scene in The Shining was born out of frustration, John. Born out of frustration.
Okay, there's a difference between psychopathic behavior and frustrating behavior. I'm just saying, she
Repeatedly, yes.
a sentence over and that is a 16-year-old boy or a 16-year-old girl that just got broken up with. It's like, I love you, I love you,
I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me.
Exactly. That's what, like, as an adult,
we should emphasize this. As an adult.
I'm making an adult to child comparison. As an adult, you don't send an email that you're repeating the same thing 16 times.
Exactly.
You either A, are dumb, which we could throw that one at her, see if it sticks. You're either dumb or you are a narcissist. And you look down on everybody that works for you.
Which I think it's definitely the latter with this woman. She has her eyes looking like this, John. Oh, like she's got her nose looking.
And if you don't understand the severity when I say literally one sentence 16 times, the email is in the Tribune.
It's shocking.
An article that links the Tribune article. They apparently MSN pays the Tribune so they could steal their stuff. I don't know.
They might have a contract. Who knows?
Thanks, MSN, for doing what you did, so we don't have to pay for news.
Let me just read this real quick. Mayor Lori Lightfoot on Monday said in a much circulated email, which she berated an aide was born out of frustration, and she's now in a better place. Oh, that's good. I'm glad she is in a better place, John.
She's in a better place than what? Saying I need office time every day?
Every day, 16 times in a row? Not just once a week on some days, every day, she wrote an additional 10 times.
Wow.
I don't even know what to... I mean, imagine being on the receiving end, John, of that kind of an email.
Trying to get in the
psychopath.
Yeah, because most of the aides and the people trying to come up, they want to get in that position, and they want to, and that's like that's non-leading. You were setting a bad example on how to lead. First of all, that is something that you can simply, pull someone aside. Hey, here's a schedule that looks. I'm just trying to make it normality in work. So here's the schedule that kind of works for me. You can even send that email. Can you schedule it a little bit like I understand that you have a tough job because maybe she has more media appearances because coronavirus than normal. But hey, can you maybe not send me to like 2 or 3 of those media because
Mhm.
they're inconsequential. I'm just repeating the same thing over again
Over
because
and
I
over
need
again.
more office time.
Yep.
You can work it out as a human.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. I think the idea that, for me, like, of course, I work in an office all the time. And I get something like that, that's an immediate deletion. And I'm reaching out, like, I'm calling that person and saying, like, what? A,
What's
you
your
don't
yeah?
have to repeat yourself in an email 16 times.
Yeah,
You can
that's
come to
weird.
me
Yeah,
and
that's weird.
talk to me, and I think, the other thing too, and this just hit me as you were speaking, John, the idea that, well, it's justified because I was frustrated. Frustration is born out of anger,
Yeah,
and
and
anger resides in foolish people. So, I mean, it doesn't take long to kind of put two and two together
no,
there.
it's absolutely true, and
Yeah.
it's especially when you're in an office environment like that.
Yeah.
I don't care if her aide messed up every day,
Yeah.
and this was like the end of the week where she didn't give her office time all week. There's a better and more mature way to handle it.
Yeah, there's something called a performance review. There's something called a
Yeah,
90-day review. There's something called a one-on-one time with your boss, or something along those lines where you're able to at least come together and just talk things out and
yeah,
hash things
change
out
expectations. Like
and level set
there's a way
expectations.
more mature way. You know,
Then
I hate picking on these people, but stop doing dumb stuff and it being popped up in the news because I do a news podcast. I hate I
yeah,
hate being judgmental to these people, but come on.
yeah,
That
exactly.
email is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
That's not even like some sketchy places, and it's still not okay there.
Part of it is hilarious, but the other part is like, yeah, it's like this woman has just lost her damn mind, and she's lost her mind a couple. She lost her mind a couple of weeks ago, and even prior to that. So, if you're a Chicagoan, I mean, when's the next election? I mean, you got to get her out of office. I mean, she's clearly not qualified to lead.
She might need to let herself out. Just to end this on a note, don't be like her.
Don't, yeah, yeah.
Simple as that.
Don't do that. Don't be afraid to go to your boss if there's something wrong. If you feel that you feel slighted, go to your boss, talk to them in person on the phone. Don't let it get to that point where you're
Weird. It's so
a
weird.
teenager.
But
So,
you know what happened? You know what has to happen to be into the Fab Five? Like you have to. There has to be a process that's done. You have to lose your ever loving mind before we even consider you. So that's why you're here.
exactly.
Literally, that's the first thing that needs to happen.
Exactly. But here's one person that really has not lost his mind and really has actually, I think, joined our side, John, on the fight for good. I guess you could say it's
Well,
John Voight,
yeah, he's definitely against Hunter Biden, which I'm all for.
which is amazing. It's not just that, but he's also slamming the media hypocrisy, which we're a big fan of here. I'll tell you that right now. This is a Yahoo News article, which is shocking that it came from Yahoo News.
Again, that's why I love pulling these. When I can find them written by people that I don't respect and they're saying the same thing the world's changing.
Mm-hmm. Actor John Voight slammed the media for remaining silent on the controversy surrounding Hunter Biden and his use of the N-word in text messages. Of course, we went over that last episode. Subsequently praising former President Donald Trump for leading the country with dignity while he was in the White House. That's up for debate, but I get where he's coming from.
Yeah, I could totally argue that point.
Yeah, exactly. This is Voight speaking. What is this? A race? A war? The left, they're okay with slurs. It's okay for Biden's son to use racist slurs, and no one says a word. Not the media, no one. I would disagree with him only because
I think a lot
he's
of
part of the media complex of the conservative side. They are speaking out. They're calling him out as calling out Hunter Biden as a racist, which he clearly is, needs help. But to slam CNN, MSNBC, they're covering for their own tracks. Come on, that's who they are. We don't need them to be reformed as much as we would love for them to be reformed.
yeah,
They're presenting that ridiculous side of the aisle's news. That's who they are. That's who they cater to.
I disagree. I disagree with him. Like
Yep.
on his he's coming from a far right perspective, which is okay because that's his right to do that.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know if I agree with all of it, but I definitely agree what he's talking about with the media and Biden, because that's just a huge cover up.
Yeah, and I think the big question,
and I do completely agree with them.
Yeah.
On the next line, that
why is it okay to beat President Trump with cruel intention against his beautiful family?
Well, you can leave the beautiful family out, but the media did.
Yeah.
All the media went after the entire Trump family. Like, so I do, whether this is just as rightfully, if you're going to say like them going after Trump's family was rightful, going after Hunter Biden is exactly the same.
Yeah. And that's where the standard, I think, and to your point, the standards have to be the same.
He's showing a huge bias to Trump.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I do kind of understand what he's saying there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I think that's
okay for one. It's definitely okay for the other.
Okay for the other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's where, speaking of our form of media here, Johnny, with Two Noobs, it's like we made it a point at the beginning part. We want to think 30,000 feet, right? We want that huge, broad view that we see everything. And to some extent, to Voight's point, he's right on the money. There is definitely, when you have a CNN going heavily with the supposed justification that Trump is like, oh God, he's a threat to our democracy. That's not your call to make as a media member.
But also Fox News was doing the same thing.
Bingo. Yes.
But then all of a sudden Fox News is doing the Hunter Biden thing, and then CNN isn't.
CNN, you hear crickets.
Yeah. It's weird. And I'm not a huge fan of Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. I don't like. I go out of the country for most of my news because they actually report on us objectively.
It's really amazing, isn't it? Like if you go to you could go to like BBC or something like that. It's like much better news than you get here.
It's a little better than it's a little better.
Yeah,
it's a little more objective, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the idea of the media hypocrisy is like that's something that
it's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing, and I get points of view. I get it, but at the same time, it's like. If something is clear and obvious, it should be reported as clear and obvious.
This is not a Trump versus Biden thing. This is Hunter Biden's racist.
Yes.
Like it has nothing to do. It's not about the president. It's not about the former president. It's not about It's not about any of that. It's like literally. I think Voight went that way, which I mean that's the conservative talking points. That's how a conservative gets to where they're going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it is that way. Well, that didn't happen they're always comparing.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But what I think he's saying with the media is dead on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
This dude should be racked through the coals. Like Kanye West was ran through more coals because he cheated on Kim Kardashian. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was drugged through more coals than Hunter Biden is, and Hunter Biden's a flat out racist.
Yeah.
Like that's my problem with the whole
Couldn't
thing.
agree. Yeah, couldn't agree more on that. Yeah. And I think, it goes, I love the fact that, he's a pity of a man. And I agree. I mean, looking at him, Hunter, I mean, clearly needs help, clearly needs all kinds of medical issues, and psychological issues.
There's a ton more stuff. We're just picking the surface. Like if you want to really get into Hunter Biden, there's a ton of information.
On him, yeah. Which I can't even imagine living like that, John. Like if in the public eye and like everything is out there for me, it's like
especially in the public eye. Like I don't want to be that dude as a private citizen.
No.
Could you imagine being a public citizen and being that much of a piece of shit? That's got to be hard work for him. He's got to be working pretty hard to be that big of a piece of shit in the public eye. Like,
yeah.
He could have just. Biden's got plenty of money. He could have just bought a little shack in Maine and
or like put him in an island or something like that away.
Well, they already owned one, but the media doesn't want to talk about that either.
Might be a bit of a problem.
I'll dig deep on Biden's.
What is it in the Catalinas?
Let's just say it's close to somewhere famous that's another island.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just leave it at that.
I gotcha. Loud and clear.
That's all.
Love it. So let's continue on with this because you, John, particularly had a fondness and a love for this article, and I'm so glad
I,
you found it.
I giggled.
This is an article from Rolling Stone, and it's like this is our first ever Rolling Stone article.
Yeah, I don't like reading them, but man, like,
Roger Waters, who was part of, I think he was part of Pink Floyd, right? He's part of the band.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Roger Waters says he rejected Facebook's offer to use another brick in the wall in ad. And so I'll just read right from the pull quote down there below. Roger Waters told the press at a recent pro Julian Assange event that Facebook approached him about using the 1979 Pink Floyd classic Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 in an upcoming advertisement for Instagram. It arrived this morning with a huge, huge amount of money, Waters said. And the answer is F you, no effing way. I only mention that because this is an insidious movement of them to take over absolutely everything, he continued. I will not be a party to this BS. Mark Beaker Zuckerberg. Love it, John. What are your thoughts on it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, this is I love that people actually have power are now standing up to this guy.
Yeah.
Because this guy's been bullying private citizens for years. We know this.
Yep.
We know this.
And we've documented this. Yep.
2008, 2009, it started the communist regime of Facebook, where you can be put in Facebook jail just by writing something that might be half controversial but completely true.
Well, one of us was definitely in Facebook jail up there.
That's why I had
badge of honor, John. You know,
greatest Facebook post is we should it shouldn't be people you may know. It should be what your jail time is, so you fit appropriately with the friends that you are gathered with.
Can you imagine if that were like on your profile picture? How many times you've been caught in Facebook jail?
You know how many more friends I would have?
I bet you probably would.
Because I would be like, oh, great. Like, oh, good. You're anti-establishment. Good. You're anti-establishment.
Exactly.
Not that Facebook's establishment. Facebook was supposed to be anti-establishment, but now they've become established.
Oh, they've become the establishment. There's no question about it. They're definitely within the Washington bureaucratic administrative state regime. No question about that.
Every time he speaks.
But for Waters to do this, to stand up and to just say, F you, like, really, to Zuckerberg, it's like, I love it. I love it. He's protecting his music, his art, his, what he created. And Pink Floyd's a great band. But it's like, love that. It's like the pushback, like, from these artists, I think has to come. And the fact that, that he essentially, like, Zuckerberg was attempting to pay off Waters for his song.
Well, it's a great song, so he knew at least Zuckerberg knows it's a good song and was going to give him a hefty sum of money.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad. Well, I mean, but again, Another Brick in the Wall isn't a song written about conformity for Instagram. It was a song written.
Yeah, and this kind of gives like a tangent point, John. Let's talk about like music. It seemed like I remember back in the day where it was really impossible to download songs, and I remember like the music artists were like, "No way, we don't want any pirated copies of my art going out there," that kind of deal. And I feel this is the same thing with Waters and Zuckerberg.
Well, this is the thing where I lost a ton of respect for Zeppelin. Not that I don't listen to their music, but what have they been? 85 Cadillac commercials. You know what I mean? In the 90s, and it's the big business of music. Just it always turned me off. Like I hate it. I understand you take that payday. That's your music. You know what I mean? It's yours. It's not mine.
Not somebody else's. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's yours. You did it. And would I do it? Probably if I was in that position. But as a music fan, that turned me off big time. Because like I don't want my favorite song to be a car commercial. It takes away the song from me. Maybe that's selfish of me, but it takes away the song from me.
I could totally understand that. No, seriously. I mean, it's like if you're listening to it, what's your mind going to think if you hear it as a commercial? You're going to be thinking about the commercial more than the song.
You're not going to, and that I don't like that. I don't like that in the way of the TV anyway, and commercials and that kind of stuff. That kind of brings me to that whole tangent about like, the U.S. patent for the TV actually calls it a mind control device. like legitimately, I can produce the patent. It literally says it. But I'm not a big TV. You know, I'm not a big TV fan. I'm not a big commercial fan. I stream my music. I stream my sports. I don't
Yep.
really. I watch wrestling on TV when I'm in a hotel just for background noise because everybody knows what it's like to be in a hotel alone.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need background noise.
Oh, 400%. Yep.
But I'm not going out of my way to, watch Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve on TV for 11 hours. It's not me. It's just not, because I don't like that level of selloutdom
Yeah.
that happens. Where the corporate media and the corporations get to pay for this music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's off-putting to me.
No, I agree. I agree.
And I love that he said, not that he said no, that he said no.
No effing way. Yeah.
Zuckerberg, because the thing with me and Zuckerberg is I hate him to a point where every time he gives an interview, I want the camera just to fall and hit him. Like, I just want him to.
And he's looking worse.
Yeah, he's looking terrible.
He really is.
Older by the day. It's bad.
Yeah, like you can see, like the aging on him is just going downhill.
He's
fast with him.
White as a ghost.
Yeah.
His head's weirdly shaped now. It kind of looks.
No,
like
it looks like an alien. No, seriously. I mean,
just as a funny joke, when Jeff Bezos said he was going up in the airplane, you heard that, the Amazon guy, he was going airplane. My first reaction to the dude I work with was like, "What? He's going back to his home planet? Is Zuckerberg next? Spit his coffee out." Like, oh, he's coming back to his home planet.
Might as well.
Alien.
Might as well.
Back of his head. It's weird.
Oh, it's awesome. That's really funny.
Look at Bezos and Zuckerberg. If you don't think that they are 20th century aliens, we can't be friends.
John, I'm telling you though, if you get rid of, like you said, you get rid of Section 230, they're done. They are done, are they not? I mean, seriously. They would be so done. And it would be, I really hope if it flips to that, it flips to the other party.
Well, if you're in Florida, if you're in Florida and if you don't like how you're treated, you can sue.
You can sue.
You can sue TikTok. You can sue Facebook. You can sue Instagram. DeSantis already did it. I haven't read if Abbott did it here.
Yeah, I think the only one that I know of is DeSantis that basically said you can sue Facebook if you're.
Yeah, he changed some kind of law. I don't.
And it's probably within their own state. Yeah, it's definitely within their state.
We'll figure out how to get that out there. That's actually a good.
That's actually another good article. Yeah, we should definitely throw that in there. Yeah,
look, we're doing pre-production in production.
Don't you love it? I love that. It's great.
Two noobs know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. We're just coming up with ideas all the time. That's the thing.
Firing off episode after episode.
Episode, yeah, exactly.
155. We'll see you guys there.
We're cranking out 2 episodes a week. What the heck? But yeah, John, happy segment, right? I think this article that we originally found, and you forwarded me the YouTube clip, which I'll play in a minute. Just an amazing story, is it not? I mean, we could talk a little bit about it before I play the clip.
Yeah,
but
it shows that this world isn't lost, because I have kids of this age, and just to see their willingness to help and carry on, it's so great.
Yeah.
And there's so many stories out here that we just have to pick. We pick one every time, but it's normally about a child who is far smarter than their years allow them to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I'm going to set up. Like, this is just genius.
That's perfect intro. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
A high school grad is headed to Harvard, but before she starts her college career, she's helping others to do the same. Verda Teta was awarded a $40,000 scholarship, $40,000, but gave all of it back.
Asking instead that the money go to someone who is struggling to pay for college. Ken McLeod has the story.
No one had the chance to say, "Don't give away 40,000."
She chuckles about it now, but 17-year-old Verda Teta dropped jaws at Friday's Fitchburg High graduation.
Yes, I would do it again.
Sorry, again, for interrupting.
What the straight-A student did was win the school's coveted scholarship for general excellence, $10 grand for each of the next 4 years, only to unexpectedly return to the podium within minutes to turn it down.
It is such a great honor, but I also know that I am not the most in need of it.
The acceptance to Harvard.
Verda, who is Harvard-bound with a bunch of other scholarships, suggested the money go to a struggling fellow student or students for whom it might open a door to community college.
I'm excited to see who it helps and, how that changes their life. So I am so happy that, God gave me the strength to do that.
That standing ovation followed some moments of reflection for Verda, during which she heard the assistant principal urge grads to be bold and selfless, and that made her think of her mom, an immigrant who often works 80-hour weeks to provide for her family. Verda's mom brought her to this country as a child from their native Ghana, always stressing the importance of education. In fact, Mom earned her bachelor's degree at a local community college at the age of 47. Which is why Rosemary Teta is so proud of her daughter's spontaneous decision.
Now I'm 100% sure she's ready to go into the world on her own.
I feel that, God has gotten me this far and he will take me the rest of the way.
The details of who now gets her scholarship haven't been worked out. But as Verda tackles her pre-med regimen at Harvard this fall, even if she comes up a few bucks short here and there, she'll know she did the right thing.
Whatever happens, someone else needed it more.
In Fitchburg, Ken McLeod, WBZ News.
Wow, she is a class act.
My jaw is on the floor. I could not be more impressed with her.
With her and her mother working 80 hours a week, the pride she feels now.
Great story there by Ken McLeod.
Bravo.
1000% agree with that story. My God.
I don't like the way they fell all over her. That was a little bit. Come on, guys. You have.
Where was the sports guy in the corner, like drinking the beer and smoking the cigar? I mean, come on. What the hell?
Communications. Come on. We couldn't give them on this day. Great story.
Great story.
Great story. Just great story. That's.
I don't think that. I mean, that is that.
If more people did that on a day, this world would be a better place.
Oh, 100%.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If more people do that, the better off everybody will be.
Yeah. It doesn't take like a summa cum laude student to do it. It could be anybody. That's the whole point. It could be anybody that says, I'm going to pass this free offer up. I want somebody else to have it. Whoa. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, because
especially,
It's see a need, fill a need.
That seems to be like a favorite phrase around here. I don't know. It seems to be a favorite phrase around here.
It seems to work.
It seems to work.
She filled a need.
Exactly. So, John, my goodness, this is just so much fun, but I'm not going to be hosting episode 39 next week. Of course, you're going to have somebody new to join you next week.
We don't know who's going to be hosting. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
We have one more thing before we send you off.
Let's do it. That's right. One final happy.
Yes, we got to talk about this.
Beautiful Stars and Stripes article here. Brothers who died at Pearl Harbor finally rest in peace together. John, I think you made mention of this every single time we get a chance to talk about the World War II generation.
Absolutely.
For the first time in nearly 80 years since Japanese torpedoes tore through the USS Oklahoma on December 7th, 1941, brothers Harold and William Trapp, who grew up together, joined the Navy together, and served and died on the same battleship, are now resting together in peace at the Punch Bowl Cemetery. That's amazing. They were originally interred as unknowns. One casket on top of the other, but after the Defense POW MIA accounting agency identified them and notified the family back in November last year. That's awesome. I feel relieved, said Carol Sowar, 70, their niece, who flew out from Albuquerque for the service. I have been crying off and on for 7 months, and then all of a sudden I feel peace and I have closure. Nice. I know where they should be. That's what it's all about, Johnny, right there, right?
Yeah, it's 100%. It's bringing them home, and that's the one thing that agency is doing. And we talk about it every week, almost. Like the technology we have is so. It's huge. It's huge. They're coming home. They're coming home from 80 years ago.
Yeah.
We
giving that niece that peace.
We got a bright future if that's happening.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And, Yeah, I think there was, what was it, a couple episodes ago we found an article where somebody was identified with, like, what was it, with a Y chromosome RNA or something like
Yeah,
that, or
yeah.
DNA
That's
analysis, and they
yeah,
found somebody. It was
yeah, that's what they're using, and it's over and over again. And you're seeing more of these articles. I'd love to actually dig. We're doing pre-production in production. I'd love to actually come up with more articles and find more things about that. It's just so heartwarming
yeah,
that they're finally coming home, because that's the one thing that is unsettling, I think, with everybody,
no doubt.
is that they're not all home.
Yeah,
They sacrificed the ultimate thing for us, but yet not all of them got to come home. And
Yeah.
coming home is the most important thing, I think, in the world, for everything. For when you go to work, coming home and seeing your family. When coming home is just it's a heartfelt thing, and
Yeah.
and to know that they finally did
Yeah.
is great.
Coming home for the holidays, coming home from work, coming home
It's
from
it's
anything.
a, it's a recurring theme with humans,
Yeah,
and to bring these two soldiers back finally,
yeah,
it
yeah.
makes
Yeah, I
me
mean,
happy.
yeah, it's great. I mean, it's such a great story, and as always, we stay on the shoulders of giants with that
Always.
generation. So it's
We
great
can't do.
that
We
two of
couldn't
them are now
be doing it
identified at
without them.
home. Yeah, it's great stuff.
They did it so we could do this.
Exactly, and thank God for that. Because I enjoy doing this with you, brother. I really do. But yeah. So that wraps up.
You'll be sorely missed next week. but-
Yeah, I'll be wrapping up episode 38. Of course, I will not be here next week. Some other lunatic will come in for me, I guess. I don't know. Kidding, not lunatic,
Another
but let's just say a good friend of ours will be stepping into the host shoes, I guess you could say.
We don't know where
Talking it over with John should be a lot of fun.
he might be
But
just running around, and I'll have to wrangle him. Never know with him.
you never know. Yeah, he might be off doing a YouTube channel. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. But as always, John, it's our shameless plug segment. So let's talk about where people can find us, man.
We are on socials. We are not really on Facebook that much because we don't like it.
No.
But we'll try to get better with that. But we are on Instagram.
We're pulling a Roger Waters. They're saying the heck with you, Facebook.
It's so true. We're on Instagram, and we are on Clapper and TikTok. TikTok's more my favorite thing. I spend a lot of time on that. So that's more where you see Two Noob stuff pop out.
Love it. Of course, our main YouTube channels are where our show is obviously posted, and we'd love for you to subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos as well to get the word out. And of course, we're also on the audio side. We love our audio listeners, don't we, Johnny?
Absolutely. From Brazil to Washington State to Virginia, Florida. We love it. Like, if you listen
Awesome
to us,
stuff.
thank you. We are on Apple Podcast, Google Chrome, Google Podcast, Spotify, but who the fuck likes them? Joking for our Spotify listeners. Don't go easier.
Exactly.
And then our show notes.
Yeah, our show notes, of course, are right here. I folded them up. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, they're like right here.
It's so you can make that throw.
So I can make that, the free throw. TwoNoobsTalking.wordpress.com, of course, for our show notes. And again, we really encourage you to sign up for that, especially now because of that 242-page report I mentioned at the top of the show. That is huge. Look at that report, read it. It's excellent. It's really, really good. And it'll also talk about really good recommendations. But yeah, TwoNoobsTalking.wordpress.com for the show notes. And again, enter in your email address, hit the enter button. Those show notes show up in the very next day. John, my man, 38 is done.
In the can.
Got anything final to say, bud?
Matt,
Yeah.
come back from the rabbit hole.
Oh, I definitely will. Okay, thanks. Talk to y'all next week. Take care.